All righty. Katherine Wood, staying in a Mississippi vein, you're a native Mississippian.
Yes, I am. I grew up in Jackson.
Wow, and you write books. That's so rare for somebody from Mississippi.
One thing Mississippi has is writers.
Well, we do, and some readers as well. This new one, it is from Penguin Random House. It's called Ladykiller. As I mentioned, we're on Greek islands. We're in Sweden. We're taking ferries. We're in beautiful hotels, beautiful settings, but there are about 3 or 4 great mysteries all going on at one time. And at the crux of it is this wonderful lifelong female friendship between Gia and Abby we're going to talk about. It is called Ladykiller, y'all. Please welcome Katherine Wood.
Thank
you. All these great locations, do you go to your publisher and say, I hate to break this to you, but I gotta go to Sweden for the next book, and they get the checkbook out? Is that how it works?
I just go. And then maybe I write it off.
Yeah. I did see where you wait until the book is completely done before you even pitch it to an editor because it can change.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm not great at following my outlines. I do make them, I know where I'm going, and then I take a left turn. That's how you keep it interesting, right? I mean, if I knew where I was going all the time, I might lead you there. But by letting the story unfold and the characters speak, I end up someplace that maybe I didn't intend to go, but it's better than where I was going to go before.
And it just so happens all these places just happen to be absolutely beautiful.
Well, when I'm thinking about writing, I've got to spend, a year in this place with these characters every day. So I think about, where do I want to go this year? Every day in my mind. And I wanted to go to Greece and Sweden.
Boy, for all you writing students out there, that's all there is to it, man. Just pick a spot, and if you're really great at writing about it, like Katherine is, well, tell us about Gia and Abby. Again, no spoilers, but...
Gia and Abby could not be more different. Gia is a rebel heiress, and Abby is her bookish best friend who is the daughter of Gia's former chef. So you've got a little bit of a power dynamic at play there. That also, Abby's education was paid for by Gia's family. So it's a bit complicated. The girls have been best friends since they were teenagers, and they did have a tragedy happen to them the summer that they were 18, that Gia wrote a memoir about, and it is now 12 years later. Gia is turning 30 and has invited Abby to celebrate her birthday under the Northern Lights in Sweden. But when Abby and Gia's brother Benny show up, Gia's not there. So Abby and Benny are worried enough about Gia to go to her Greek Islands estate where she's spending the summer to look for her. But when they arrive in Greece, they find her beachfront estate eerily empty with no sign of Gia other than the manuscript that she penned leading up to her disappearance.
Man, we've got to read this. You've got your pitch down. It's sort of a book within a book in a way, right?
That's right. So we have Abby's point of view, and then we have Gia's point of view through the manuscript that she has written.
So we cut from the chapters, we'll have Abby's goings on, and inevitably you sort of leave us with a little cliffhanger of what she's doing. Then we go back to the manuscript to find out
to find out where Gia is, and because she's looking for Gia, so she's turning to this manuscript to help her try and figure out what happened to Gia.
Man, and you mentioned the Northern Lights, and we were talking backstage. That was one thing you have not been able to do, is to go see them.
That is a bucket list thing for me. I'm dying to see the Northern Lights. I have not actually seen them yet, except for in my mind's eye when I was writing this book.
Well, and I also saw an interview with you where you mentioned during COVID, you couldn't travel to any of these spots, so tell us what you did.
Yes, during the Troubles, I was writing a book set in the jungles of Mexico, The Vicious Circle, which I wrote under my other name, Catherine St. John. And I had been to the jungles, but not the specific jungle I was writing in, and my trip was canceled because of the Troubles. And so I needed a way to be able to feel like I was there and immerse myself, and so I got an Oculus. And there's a great app that you can use called Wander, and it's basically Google Maps, but it's all in 3D, and it feels like you're there. And so I used that to write that book, and it's something that I use as a tool now. I've been most of the places that I write about, but the details are so important I'm writing escapist thrillers. So I really want to transport my readers to wherever it is I'm writing about, and I feel like the best way to do that is through detail. That people really pick up on those details, and it's the details that can make you feel like you're really there. So to remind myself of what it feels like to be walking along a boardwalk in Greece, I will pull up my Oculus and go to Greece.
That is so cool. You don't even have to leave the house. And
I mean, I'd like to leave the house to go to Greece at the drop of a hat, but unfortunately I have children.
But I mean, the Mexican jungle, like, hey, no mosquitoes, man. That's perfect. I mean, you've also got some financial wheeling dealings going on in here involving multi-million-dollar properties. Was that something also you had to research, or are you secretly a real estate mogul as well?
Back when I was an actress in another lifetime, I also worked as a real estate agent, which is, I'm sure, a story you've never heard, an actress real estate agent. So I do have a little bit of experience in the transfer of properties, although none of them that I represented were ever worth $14-15 million.
Oh man, before repairs, right? You're going to read from this for us. We appreciate that. I do have to get you to try to tell us, I'm sure you're sworn to secrecy, but you can tell us about television possibilities in this book being sold.
Television, what's that?
Yeah.
I can't talk specifically about anything, but I can say, keep your ears pricked.
So we may be seeing this on some sort of screen very soon.
Maybe.
All right, and you won't have to sit home anymore. You can cash the checks and go anywhere you want to go.
Well, I'll be in Greece.
You already decided. Oh, and by the way, the next one is, where is it set?
The next one is set in St. Bart's.
Man, what a gig.
It's a terrible life, let me tell you.
All right, Katherine Wood. Some of you may remember her previous books under Catherine St. John. She is now writing under Katherine Wood. And we love her parents, who are based here in Oxford, Mississippi. We see you and Frank. We appreciate them so much. Just telling all the secrets. This book, again, is called Ladykiller. We're going to hear a little bit from it now. Again, y'all welcome Katherine Wood.
Thank you. So, as I mentioned, this book is told from Gia's and Abby's points of view, and it plays a lot with truth and perception and what is real and what is not. And so the beginning of the book starts with a neutral voice, an omniscient voice, to give us a little bit of a clean slate. And that's what I'm going to start with. Prologue. New York City, March. The night before Hugo Torres's funeral, a cheetah escaped its enclosure at the Bronx Zoo and devoured a warthog. Had the victim been a more charming animal, say a koala or a monkey, perhaps there would have been some level of outrage directed at the cheetah, but as it was, the whispers among the mourners assembled in the cathedral on Park Avenue the next morning were of sympathy not for the warthog, but for the cheetah. After all, cheetahs were predators not meant for a life in captivity. The cat had only done what it was born to do. The turnout from the memorial service was impressive. The church, packed to the gills with Manhattan's finest, decked in their best bereavement attire, rendered ant-like by the towering stone pillars and soaring vaulted ceiling. Diamonds glittered on beds of black lace as mourners craned their necks to get a glimpse of the mahogany casket, their morbid curiosity stifled by the closed lid, draped in more roses than a Kentucky Derby winner. The invitation had said 9:30, but it wasn't until the church bells struck 10 that the family stepped through the massive doors, ushered inside by a gust of bitingly cold wind that chilled the back third of the church. Everyone turned to watch the spectacle, carefully concealing their fascination as the solemn group proceeded up the marble nave. First in line was the third and current wife, Melody, a waxy-looking French-Canadian of 50, who had a frigid personality and a frosty relationship with her husband's exes and their children. Her bone-thin frame was draped in black wool and ivory-colored pearls. The hand of the 6-year-old son she shared with Papa Hugo gripped tightly in hers. Everyone murmured how awful it was for the poor boy to lose his father at such a young age, But such were the risks of a May-December romance. It's fair to say the congregation was universally disappointed that the crazy second wife wasn't in attendance. Of course, they knew it wasn't okay to call people who had been institutionalized for mental illness crazy. Could you even say that word anymore? But privately, that was how they thought of her. In her day, Caroline had been a talented painter, not to mention very beautiful, with a habit of flirting with husbands who didn't belong to her. Now she lived in a sanatorium in Switzerland, like it was the 19th century or something, neatly packed away for unbecoming behavior. Her daughter, Gia, was just as stunning as her mother had been, and just as much trouble, elite circles would say. She was a staple of the society pages, flitting from boyfriend to boyfriend between various creative endeavors that included a salacious but surprisingly well-written memoir and a perfume she loved too much to sell to the public. Today, she was wearing a skin-tight black satin dress with long sleeves and a completely open back, her eyes hidden by giant black sunglasses, her long brunette locks gathered into a bun at the nape of her neck, clutching the arm of her brother, Benicio. Benny had wavy dark hair like his sister's, almost long enough on top to tuck behind his ears, and they both shared their father's deep-set eyes and olive skin and their mother's artistic sensibilities. The mothers in the crowd registered Benny's bare ring finger and pinched their eligible daughters, who blushed, but for once didn't protest. Sadly, ever since Benny's first screenplay was turned into a runaway hit film, he was perpetually accompanied by some actress or other, and to the chagrin of all the mothers, his current girlfriend, the star of a television show about witches, would be stapled to his side by the time that he reached the reception. Notably missing were the British first wife and her 3 grown children. It was no secret that she regarded Americans as gauche and had elected to hold a competing memorial service in London, which was, ironically, rather gauche. When the family reached the first row, Melody allowed Gia and Benny to sit first, then took her place at the end of the pew, leaving a discernible gap between herself and her stepchildren. Gia's best friend, Abby, the daughter of the family's former chef, leaned forward from the second row and put her hand on Gia's shoulder. Thanks to Papa Hugo's generosity, Abby had gone to boarding school with Gia and the daughters and sons of many in the congregation. She was petite and reserved, pleasant-looking but not gorgeous, an unobtrusive interloper in their rarefied circles. And though she was better turned out than she had been in high school, her mousy hair now a smart shoulder-length blonde, her glasses replaced by contacts that revealed large green eyes, her middle-class clothes and bearing would have rendered her nearly invisible to this set, were her face at 18 not burned into their minds. Scandal was the wrong word for what had happened. Shocking violence was more like it. The assault Abby had suffered at the hands of Gia's stalker was shocking, that much was certain, and violent. But real tragedy had been narrowly averted when Gia stepped in, saving Abby's life by extinguishing that of her attacker. The news cycle seized on the story. Heiress kills homicidal maniac and saves best friend's life. They'd all seen the television interviews Gia gave and read the memoir she wrote about it afterward, too, of course. Though some accused her of profiting off tragedy, the book had been a moderate success and would have provided her the opportunity for a career as an author if she had so desired. Alas, 10 years later, her publisher was still waiting on her follow-up. Everyone stared at the gold-framed oil portrait of Papa Hugo displayed on an easel next to his coffin as the priest rightly declared him an icon, beloved by those close and far. It was warm in the church, and minds began to wander as the priest went on to summarize how Papa Hugo had made his money in oil but poured it back into clean energy. And that is why Hugo chose to donate his entire $500 million fortune to the Torres Foundation. This got their attention. The Torres Foundation had been founded by Papa Hugo and his second wife, the crazy artist, and therefore the main causes it funded were the environment, which was his passion, and the arts, which was hers. Donating his fortune to the foundation was admirable, of course, but what of his children? Suddenly, the congregation's focus was once again on the front row of the church, as they desperately tried to make out from the tilt of a head or the side of a face whether his family had known they would be cut out of the will. Husbands and wives gave each other meaningful glances as they bowed their heads for a final prayer before everyone, Even those who had thought 5 minutes ago that they might skip the wake in favor of a round of golf headed over to the ballroom at the Waldorf for the reception. Thank you.
Katherine Wood, y'all, one more time for her, please. Ladykiller is the name of the novel. Katherine will visit with us at the table, sign your copy. It is wonderful. It's a page turner. It's, it's PG-13-ish, R-rated, man. I mean, it ain't the Hardy Boys. I found that out about page 3. Yeah, but it's a lot of fun. And I